Hey there, guys. So we've now played our 3 games using our GolPost deck, and again, showing you replays on this just because I wanted to basically, give you the best game I possibly could. I'm far from a perfect player, but I know I'm much better playing when I'm not trying to commentate at the same time. It's that whole walking and chewing gum thing. So opening hand in the first game was pretty good. A little bit land heavy, but the fact that we do have cloud posts and glimmer posts available to us is pretty nice. That gives us a pretty good chance to get our land started, and we also have the mana we need to get this Rager into play as soon as possible as well. Sorry, client seems to be a little laggy, so if this slows up, deal with it. Cloud Post goes down, my opponent throws down Geothermal Crevice, which does tell us immediately that he is playing Storm. Not going to be terrible for this matchup because of the fact that we do have those Echoing Decays in there. Trick of the matter is, however, that we do need to draw those. So draw into another Rager, which is okay. We will be able to get that going as soon as possible. You notice that we put the Cloud Post down into the Guild Gate because of the fact that we need that black mana available. I wanted to ensure that I have it instead of relying on a top deck for a swamp, so I wanted to get that in before turn 3 in order to not miss this drop. It's kind of a no-win situation here. Using the Ragers will give us a chance to draw into the Echoing Decay faster, but at the same time it's costing us life to draw cards, so that puts us in a much simpler range for him to storm off for Grape Shot, or even empty the Warrens. He only needs to do 19 damage now as opposed to 20. One of the good things that we also have going for us is the fact that we're running the Glimmer Posts as well as the Essence Harvest. As much life gain as we can get is great because of the fact that he needs to do 20 damage to win. The more life you have, the harder it is for him to successfully not only go off, but also finish you in the same turn. It's easy to go off with Storm, but if you don't have the pieces to actually do the damage, well, there's no point. So he is going through, we are on, what was this? This is turn 3. So he is going through and storming off. There's not much to say here. Once Storm gets going, you just kind of tab out to the next game. So he does complete here. 3 cards in his hand, does a Grape Shot. I don't know at this point in time. You'll see he made a critical error here. He, I guess, miscounted. 3 cards in hand, you would assume that he had enough to finish me off. He, I guess, had 3 lands in hand. You would think that those 3 cards would end up being spells. Now the Ideas Unbound, he got me down to 5, and this Ideas Unbound is now going to force him to completely discard his hand, and because he has sacrificed his lands, he is down to only 2 mana available, which is enough to go off, but the fact that he has no hand means that this game is already over. I draw into a 3rd Glimmer Post, and I am going to start playing these right away in order to get my life back up, so I can still use these Ragers and try and find something. Again, it's still pretty much game over because in order to finish me off, he needs to find another Grape Shot. He needs to find Empty the Warrens plus the Bushwhacker. He needs to seriously rebuild his hand, which is something that is not going to be possible once you kind of misplay. So I am going to in turn simply keep playing Ragers, keep drawing cards with Prism, still trying to find Echoing Decay. Again, I still think it's game over at this point, but I still want to dig out that Decay just so I have it in case something goes terribly wrong and I can't get things going. I do use Reap and Sow there to get rid of his land. Again, I think I'm going to say this to death here, but he's pretty much game over already, and if I can just get rid of his lands, it's going to continue to put him in a bad situation where he can't finish me off and has no chance of recovery. Swinging through with the Ragers here, and he's going to have little he can do. He does just decide to concede out because this will be game, and he has no answers. So we're going to open up game 2 here. Opening hand in game 2 was pretty good. We had 2 lands available to us. One was Cloud Post. This deck actually doesn't really have any early game plays. Its best plays are mostly going to come in at 3. Sure, you can ramp up your lands, but if you don't get untapped lands, if you don't get basics or Glimmer Posts, it's not going to be critical loss because of the fact that this deck can really start getting moving around turn 3. So this deck is going to be, this matchup is going to be versus Mono Black Control. Opponent starts out with a Duress and picks off Echoing Decay, which I guess is a good choice for Mono Black. I'm not sure it really was. I guess if he gets his rats out and stuff like that, it will be a bit hard for me to deal with. So, Sign in Blood, drawing some cards. I do top deck into the 3rd land I need in order to get this Rager out. on turn 3. A little unfortunate that it is a Glimmer Post. Usually you like to save those as long as possible to gain as much life as possible. But we are going to be able to tap out 2 to draw a card. The life gain off it is going to at least keep us above 20, but it's not something I have to worry about so much. My opponent continues to draw off his own Rager. I'm going to take an opportunity to attack into it. Playing my second Rager here, maybe it would have been a better idea to attack first to try and force him to kill it off. He's going to have a lot of creature kill. Luckily, some of the stuff is going to be like Doomblade, so it cannot target my creatures, which are black. So a lot of his creature kill is going to kill off my creatures as soon as possible, so I want to try and get in damage as soon as possible. And you'll see how that kind of affects my play later on as well. So he also casts a second Rager. Draw into Prism, and my mana base is okay here, but not great, so I am going to play this to try and draw into something better. I do hit an Expedition Map, which is great because I can cast and use this on the same turn and fetch out a GolPost and not miss my mana drop here. Once again, attacking into his Rager because of the fact that I know he's going to have a lot of creature kill, and I want to kind of get the most out of my creatures, whether it's damage or clearing the board as well. This deck doesn't actually have a lot of control options. Just like Green Post, a lot of the control that you have to do with other creatures has to be done during combat. So Sign in Blood comes down once again, and he is going to tap fully out for Liliana's Spectre. I decided to get rid of one of the Essence Harvests. The creatures are more important to me, even though he is going to be heavy on the non-creature removal. I'm sorry, the creature removal, they are non-creature spells. How about that? Draw into a Prism here, but we do have plenty of mana now thanks to these GolPosts. I can start getting these herds going. I wanted to start off with the herd because of 2 reasons. First off, the ability to fetch more herds allows me a bit of card advantage, which is important versus a deck that is actively discarding my hand. The second reason was, and this again goes back to the fact that he's playing a lot of removal, in mono black control they use a lot of creature kill spells, so if I put out Olmog's Crusher, he's going to immediately kill it in most situations. If he has a kill spell for it, he's going to kill it as soon as possible because it's that powerful. Now, that being said, Essence Harvest, I want to get the maximum use out of that as well. So if I use that off Herd, all I'm getting off of Essence Harvest is 4 life. If I use it off Crusher, then I'm using it for 8 life, which means that he can kill it, but I'm going to get life gain off it beforehand, hopefully. And I say hopefully because of the fact that Essence Harvest is sorcery speed. I really think this card would be significantly better if it was instant speed. Then it could also be comboed off of the herds after they pump each other. But again, that being said, I was waiting for a point in time where I had 11 mana available. And this may be a little bit crazy, you might think, but the fact that we're running GolPost means that we can get to that 11 mana point a little bit faster than you might expect. So I did want to hold off on it a little bit and start with the herds and just kind of see what came of it. Put down another Prism again, trying to draw land so that we could build up our base and get that 11 to play both of those in the same turn. Unfortunately, he does hit me with another Duress there and gets rid of the Essence Harvest. Now I'm going to take a significant amount of damage to the Spectre through the air there. But that's okay. Crypt Rats comes down, and that's going to give him a great opportunity to kill off these herds. This is one of the few board wipe creatures that, well, spells that we have available to us in Pauper. So if I started dumping these herds as fast as I can, he's going to easily be able to pick them off with the 4 mana available just right here. He's going to have plenty left over to play other spells. So at that point in time, I said, okay, that's enough. You know, the Harvest hold did not go off well, so we're going to just get that Crusher into play and kind of hold back on the herds a little bit in order to keep them alive, to ensure that he does not wipe the board. I am, however, going to attack through with this. Again, I want to be aggressive with my creatures because I don't have a lot of removal, and he does. So if my creature is alive on the board and able to attack, I want to take that opportunity and try and do some damage. So taps out, puts down another Rager, puts down Ravenous Rats, and I take the chance to get rid of Reap and Sow. It is something that, you know, it's great. I do need that extra land eventually, but I'm at a pretty stable point in this game. Each of these GolPosts tap for 3 mana, and I have a Prism in hand, which will allow me to try and draw into something else, and the herds don't hurt either. So I decided to attack here first before making a play. Again, Crypt Rats could kill off multiple herds if I played them, So I wanted to see if he was willing to block or sacrifice the Crypt Rats before I played another herd. So it's only attacking for 4, but that's going to be plenty. Kind of an interesting choice of sacrifice there. He gets rid of the Ravenous Rats and the Spectre, and then chooses to block. I think a significant misplay here. He chooses to block the Crusher, which is fine, to chump block that. I think he should have sacrificed off lands to the Annihilator ability. But the weird thing is here, after blocking her, I guess he did not realize it had trample, because he, in turn, after blocking is declared, taps out to blow up the world for 2, killing off only his creatures, leaving both of mine alive, and doing a full 4 damage because of the trample ability. For those of you who are not familiar, if he was just chump blocking, it would be fine, it wouldn't be a big deal, but because the Auroch Herd has trample, if he let that Rager die in combat, he would only take 2 damage, but because when trample is going to be assigned, it goes to a toughness of 0 because the creature is no longer there, it's going to do the full 4. So now, because of that, I do have an opportunity. I can start playing these herds, but I'm going to take the chance to tap out and get a little extra GolPost mana. This was a bit of a math malfunction on my play. I didn't actually do the math. I just looked at it and said, oh, if I get more GolPosts, then I have the opportunity to play more Auroch Herds in a turn. Which is true, but I thought maybe I could play 2 that turn because my math is obviously spectacular. So that went pretty well. He actually 4 cards left in his hand. I don't know if he was just land flooded, but he did not have any creature kill there outside of his Crypt Rats. So very interesting game. Alright, so this was the 3rd game. We do have opening hand had no lands. So already at a pretty significant disadvantage here because we are going to have to drop down to 6. Usually this is not so bad if you are on the play, but we are, I'm sorry, on the draw, but we are on the play, so that is going to hurt. 6 is pretty good here. We do have 3 lands available to us now, both colors, and a prism, which will help us kind of draw back to where we should be. It's unfortunately there's no locust land, so that's a little bit slow getting started. There's no explorers or anything to get that going. And my opponent is going to be playing Affinity, which can actually get pretty fast. So put out the 2 colors, get the prism, trying to draw into something again, holding Glimmer Posts as long as possible in hopes of getting out a GolPost and getting as much life gain as I can. He's going to tap out, puts out Spellbomb, and is able to tap out the Frogmite, which he played for free in order to play... Come on, you can do it. There you go. In order to play a Tog, which is going to cause me all kinds of trouble, because again, this deck does not do any targeted creature removal outside of Echoing Decay, which this can get around because of the fact that it pumps itself up. All of our creature control is going to have to come through combat, which is bad when we're in a slow start like this. It is turn 3 and we do not have any Locust lands into play. Most importantly, no GolPosts. That means that we are at a significant disadvantage, and matching up something like an Auroch Herd against an Atog is not good at all because of the fact that the Atog has the extra toughness and can sacrifice even lands to pump itself up and kill off our creatures. So I would definitely, I think, say this is a bad matchup. If they get a good draw as well as he did here, he can significantly do damage and do it at a pretty fast pace. Sacrifices off the Spellbomb in order to kill off the Rager. I was hoping that he would trade the Frogmite, which would have been an advantage to me. Or at the very least sack it to the Atog. Did not happen. Drawn to Disturb Burial, which I considered playing for the Rager and decided that putting myself down even more life than I already was going to be taking was not the best play, and I played instead the Prism in order to try and hopefully draw into a excuse me, losing my voice again, draw into an Echoing Decay, which did not happen. So he taps out, plays the second Atog, swings through, decides not to kill anything off, but he is pretty much setting himself up for the win here. Maybe a bit of a misplay. I decided to use Expedition Map to grab a GolPost. I think maybe a smarter play would have been to get a little life gain in there first. I was hoping that I had at least one more turn available to me than I did, but he does sacrifice off pretty much his whole mana base there to do 7 damage through one Atog plus the additional 3 here, and then flings the Atog at me for the win. So definitely did not hold up well against the fast Infinity deck. But definitely check out, like I said, the next video, as you're aware of, will be my thoughts, my final thoughts on how the deck held up. And if you haven't checked it out already, go check out the deck tech. That will all be linked in the description below as well.